The copter's blades were spinning to a stop as Kara exited and stood next to Ian. They were exactly the same height, and a study in contrasts. Ian's dark skin and hair were an elegant cashmere overcoat made him look like he stepped off a fashion runway. Kara was dressed in a wingsuit, a fedora crammed on her head, and her hands in the pockets of a battered leather jacket. It was only recently that she'd been folded into the Cahill inner circle, and Dan thought that having one of the world's best computer security experts in your corner was just about the coolest thing ever. Jonah jumped out of the copter, making it look like a dance move. He bumped fists with Dan. "Reunited and it feels so good," he said. "Terribly sorry about the unconventional summons." Ian scanned the mountains around them casually, as though he were a tourist admiring the view. "Natalie and I used to ski in Chamonix during school breaks. It was always a favorite spot of ours. A bit overrun with tourists, of course." Kara nudged Ian with her shoulder so hard she pushed him off balance. "We don't need the travelogue. Go ahead, Ian. Say it." Ian flushed. "My second-in-command likes to take matters into her own hands. She countermanded my order and contacted Ham, Nellie, and Jonah on the emergency system. Nellie is standing by in New York. Good thing I sent the signal too," Kara exclaimed. You were attacked, then thrown out of the mansion." "What?" Amy and Dan asked together. "Literally." Ian winced at the memory. "Bruised my coccyx." "Your what?" Dan asked. Hamilton pointed to Ian's butt. "Oh, I get it," Dan said. "They bruised your brain." "Good one," Hamilton guffawed and gave Dan a high five. "Can we get back to the subject?" Amy asked. She gave Dan the look he called the sister stink eye, meaning be quiet or else. "Ian," Kara said, "say it." "Ah." A great struggle seemed to take place on Ian's face. "I need your help," he finally blurted. "Dude, we're retired," Dan said. "Didn't anyone tell you?" "We know," Hamilton said. "That's why it's a complete bummer that we had to come and find you." "Don't get me wrong," Dan said. "You're my posse. Happy to see you. Looking good," etc. "But you promised us no family business. We are officially Cahill free. Remember? You took an oath." "We didn't take an oath," Ian objected. "You took a silent oath," Dan said. "That's ridiculous," Ian said. "There's no such thing as a silent oath. We're oathless." "Will you two knock it off?" Amy said impatiently. She stared Dan down once again. Sister stink eye to the max. Ian gestured to the helicopter. "We rented this to take us to Jonah's plane at the Geneva airport. We're just asking for 10 minutes of your time. We're on the clock, and we have to decide our next step." Dan stifled another objection. Of course, he had to listen. He got that. These were his best friends, his family. He wouldn't turn his back on them. And they'd shown up in a very cool helicopter. That was a bonus. If only he didn't have the same feeling that if he climbed aboard, he'd be climbing into a big Cahill mess. "Where are you going?" Amy asked. "That's the problem," Kara said. "We don't know yet." "What about Jake and Atticus?" Amy asked, referring to her boyfriend and his brother. Atticus was Dan's best friend, and the pair had fought hard alongside the Cahills. They'd kept up with them on video conference, and they were as close as ever. "Are you going to contact them too?" "The Outcast saw no outsiders," Kara said. "The Outcast? It's never been good when evil dudes have a nickname." Dan's feet felt like lead as he climbed aboard the copter. He had to admit, though, that it was one sweet ride. Cream-colored, cushy leather seats, a mini fridge with snacks, a flat-screen TV. It was like a fancy hotel suite with rotors attached. Dan sat gingerly on the leather seat and listened as Ian filled them in. With a glance at his sister, he could feel Amy's laser brain honing in on the details, but he kept losing track. It was all so awful. What kind of a slime ball would wrestage major disasters? Hold lives in the balance? Is there any chance this guy is just faking all this? Dan asked. Because this just sounds like he's trying to scare us so he can get control. He already has control, Ian pointed out, and he's living in Grace's mansion. Wait a second, Dan said. What about Saladin? Saladin, too, Hamilton said. I hope they feed him red snapper. He has my cat. So if we don't prevent these disasters, innocent people will be killed, Amy said. Can we watch the video? Dan shot a glance at his sister. Amy just used the word we. She'd already made up her mind. Kara handed over her tablet. Amy and Dan watched it play through. Dan felt a chill run through him from just the sight of the guy. Recognize him? Ian asked, pointing to the outcast. Amy and Dan shook their heads. How about this guy? Ian pointed to the man they hadn't been able to ID. Notice how he's keeping his face averted? He knew where the cameras are. I don't recognize him, Amy said. The first step is to find out who the outcast is. He knew Grace. That's clear. Did you notice the way he talked about her? So, he's a figure from her past. Remember when he quoted her? Dan recited the words. If your best instincts are your worst enemies, take your hands off the controls. Find someone else to fly the plane. I never heard her say that, Amy said. Maybe it's in some Cahill archive. An official letter or memo or speech. Maybe we could track him that way. I can't get into the archive, Kara said. I've managed to get our personal phones and tablets hooked up and secure, we can't tap into the Cahill network. It's like flying blind. Keep trying, Amy said. If anyone can do it, you can. Considering the fact that you don't seem to know him, but he knew Grace, it could be from pretty long ago. Has anyone talked to Uncle Fisk? He's in Mexico for 3 months, Ian said. I didn't want to disturb him. Nellie should go talk to him in person. Ian frowned, and Dan realized that Amy was already snapping orders, even though she wasn't the head of the family anymore. Casually, he nudged her with his foot. I mean, if you think that's a good idea, Ian, she added. Certainly, Ian said in a chilly tone. Sorry, Ian, Amy said. It's hard to get out of the habit of being the head of the family. Indubitably, Ian said. Jonah held up a hand. Don't go all Brit fuff on us, Cabra. You're the family leader, no question. But we're here looking for Amy's expertise, am I right? Ian drew himself up. I have no idea what you mean. I've never been Brit fuff in my life, whatever that means. It means all superior and puffed up, Ham explained. Well, that's certainly not me, Ian said. He adjusted the cuffs of his blazer. Kara laughed. Sometimes you're just adorable, she said to Ian. And sometimes you're insufferable. You're going all Brit fuff right now. Silence greeted that remark. No one else had ever connected the word adorable with Ian. Here's the deal, Jonah said. We've got ourselves a huge problem. This guy is going to seriously hurt and kill people under the Cahill name, no? And we've got less than 5 days to solve the riddle and stop him. We're already smack in the middle of day 1. The riddle, Amy said. Let's hear it again. She queued it up and pressed play. Your first disaster took place at sea. It was sad, rich, and poor died in agony. Broke all records for calamity for those still clad in pajamity. A collision caused the terrible losses. In the Maritimes you'll find the crosses. On Mont Blanc rest the ones to blame. Oh, to maim, blind and kill, and have no shame. It will happen again if you can't stop it. At least the Cahill fam will profit.